Chances are you're the retirement plan. Rather than you going to them for help, they come to you for help.
Yes. Millennials are the sandwich generation. We're the generation in between the Gen Z, Gen Alpha younger, and the Gen X and more
Everything in this
generation
video
who is older. You may have recently found yourself in the situation where you're responsible for helping your parents prepare for retirement. Let's hear this young lady's perspective.
Let's talk about the pressure of being your parents' retirement plan. As the oldest Mexican daughter, I first felt this pressure when I graduated from college. I knew I was seen as the one who'd made it because I'd gone to college. My family would naturally turn to me for financial support.
First to go to college, first to get a salaried career, whether you're an immigrant or maybe you're like me, African American, but one of the few in your family to go to college or make good money. There is an inherent responsibility that is placed on your shoulders. If you are the oldest, whether that be oldest son, oldest daughter, when you get to the point where your parents are ready for retirement, the responsibility is falling on you to actually help prepare them for retirement. So I don't disagree with none she said so far.
It was a big weight on my shoulders. I didn't even know how to fund my own retirement, and I had to figure out how to help my parents with theirs.
And that's something that's not really talked about a lot is you're doing multiple things simultaneously. You are preparing to maybe buy a house, so you're saving for that. You may be paying down student loans because you got your college degree. You may be also managing credit card debt and paying that down, keeping that reasonable. You may be wanting to build an emergency fund. You may be planning to start a family. Like, you're doing all these things simultaneously with the additional responsibility of helping your parents, whether it be just information that you're giving to them or actual money and resources that you're responsible for giving to them. So yeah, it could be a lot. And then that's not even to mention if there's certain like strenuous dynamics within family relationships, whether it be with your parents, with siblings, like it can be a lot and it's not really talked about a whole lot. But thus, you have Gage Street.
While paying off student loans, car debt, and trying to figure out my own finances. My parents didn't have anything safe for retirement. They don't know what a Roth IRA is. They don't know how the stock market works. But I'm close enough to them that I was able to have an open, honest conversation about what their retirement would look like. Luckily, both my parents are planning to.
That's good. And she mentioned she was able to have an open and honest conversation with them. That's really where it starts because you got to start talking to them about their retirement and what that may look like for them, what their goals and ambitions are so that you can help properly prepare them. I am actually currently experiencing this, which is why it hit home when I saw some of these videos. So I was like, oh, I am a millennial who went to college. I'm the oldest on my mom's side and I'm the only on my dad's side. Both of my parents are within 5 years of being retirement age. And so the responsibility is apparent right now more than ever that I have to prepare them for retirement. I also come from very humble beginnings. So by no means was I born with a silver spoon in my mouth. It was plastic at best, but it was definitely great. That's no shade, it's just reality of the situation. But yeah, I found myself helping my parents prepare for retirement. And so as a result of that, being in the thick of it, I actually created a video that talks about 6 ways to help your parents prepare for retirement. So watch that video after you watch this one.
Retire in Mexico, so they'll be able to get by on the little Social Security they're going to get. I'm still going to help them when I have the ability to, but this is a huge weight off my shoulders.
And that's the biggest thing. Like when our parents are entering retirement, they're now living on a fixed income and supposedly they will have Social Security and Medicare to actually help them cover health costs and also living expenses. As we know, Social Security might not even be a thing because whatever's happening in DC as of right now. And then Medicare is also being gutted, right? So the things that we were taught that we could rely on potentially when we were growing older, like now is up in the air, which if you think about it, there's talk in the media about cutting Medicare and Medicaid and privatizing Social Security. But oftentimes I can't help but think about the real world impact that it's going to have on everyday people. That means that our eldest generation is not going to be able to pay for groceries in some instances, not being able to get the shuttle transportation to and from their home to doctor's appointments and doctor visits, not being able to have healthcare services, appointments that particularly they will need because they are the aging generation. And that part is very heartbreaking. And that's the part that's not really talked about. It's the impact, the real world, everyday impact. And I don't care if you're red, white, blue, green, purple, yellow, orange, teal, turquoise. Like, it doesn't matter. The impact is going to be felt across what you look like in the face and also across, what is it, like your economic status, right? And oftentimes those in the working slash middle slash lower class are the ones that are most impacted. And I quite honestly think it's disgusting.
How are you managing these expectations? How are you handling the stress?
If you have found yourself in the situation where you were required to help your parents prepare for retirement while also handling your own finances, how are you managing those expectations? Are you having those conversations with your parents? Do you have siblings that can actually help you? And how are you letting this responsibility not stress you the hell out? Let's compare notes. Let's put it in the comments. If there's any helpful ways that you are balancing it, share with those below, because I'm pretty sure someone else could use your insights.
Your children are not your retirement plans, and a lot of y'all need to let your think. There's no
Right off the bat, it's going to be a no for me, but let's see what she's talking about.
reasons that your parents should be a line item budget from your monthly salary. You can never get ahead if you're consistently providing for your parents because they failed to plan.
Sister girl, I'm not going to say I disagree, but I don't agree. I don't agree. I think oftentimes from a social media perspective, people talk about best case scenario or like what's the most advantageous for you. But oftentimes that's just not the reality of people's situation. There's a lot of nuance when it comes to life, and letting your parents think, bruh, maybe if you was like emancipated at 18 and you don't have any relationship with your parents, but I'm curious to know, are you actually willing to let your parents think when it comes to their retirement because they failed to plan, in her words? I'm trying to find it. I'm trying to see. That's me trying to see like where that might make sense. If the relationship is strained, sure, maybe, but I don't know. Just off the strength that my parents brought me into this world, they are the reason why I am the way that I am today and like as successful and as a good human. I ain't let my parents think, bro. It ain't happening.
So they plan to fail, and they are using their children as their retirement plan. Shame on your parents.
Okay. Here's something that just came to me. So I don't necessarily all the way disagree. Yeah, I'm changing in real time. Okay. If your parents are leaning on you and there is a pressure or an expectation of I sacrifice my life, so now it's you better do this type of vibe. Okay, cool. Like I can see where you like, but no, because I didn't ask to be here type situation. But I also think that there is a way through that like tumultuous relationship. I don't know. Because even if you have a, let's say, somewhat strenuous relationship with one or both of your parents, but you are financially able to help them in the retirement without it causing any undue strain on you and your finances, are you going to let your parents sink?
And I thank God that I have a financially literate mother. My mother has never asked me to pay a bill, even when I moved home, making 6 figures a year.
Okay, now girlfriend, listen. So she's coming from the perspective of never really having to experience that, right? Her experience is a little, what do I say? How do I say? It's not well-rounded. And that's no shot to her, but I think it's just different if you have experience seeing your parents need and giving versus your parents being financially literate and never asking. It's easy to get on here and say, oh, don't give. But girl, you ain't never had the situation where your parents needed and you were responsible for giving. You know what I'm saying? That's a whole totally different, it just adds another layer of perspective that she doesn't have. It sounds good, but I don't personally agree with the fact that you should let your parents sink because they failed to plan, particularly if you look like me, because as we all know, there are systems and institutions and protocols that have been designed to hold us back, right? So there is a legitimate reason, or there can be a legitimate reason as to why they do not have. So letting them sink is for something that may or not wholly be their fault. I don't necessarily agree with that. Now, if your parents are just out here reckless, just going into debt, filing bankruptcy 7 times, just out here going cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs, okay, cool. No, it's not your responsibility. But if it's a normal situation, my parents ain't sinking, bro. I don't know.
At my very big age, in my mid to late 20s, my mother never asked me to pay a bill. I volunteered.
Still, I think it's different when your parents need versus you're doing it voluntarily. Not to take away from her experience, but yeah, it's some things she's missing from a perspective. But let's see what the comments talking about. Maj said, African parents literally need to hear this. It's sad. Now, that is something that I am not directly aware of because I'm not African. I'm African American, but I have heard of, and not just African parents, but also Asian parents, just culturally, there is an expectation, particularly if you're like an immigrant, child of an immigrant parents, things like that. There's an expectation that because they sacrificed it coming to America and they did all these things, that now there is an expectation that you return the favor and shell out things. That can be, I definitely understand that. And that can be very rocky. That can be a rocky road to travel. TT216 said, I tell my mom no in English, French, Spanish, and AV because, ma'am, you had too much of a head start on me to be asking me for stuff. Before I had my daughter, I was financially literate and independent, so she's growing up watching me. She's not my plan. I agree in that you should not have a child with the expectation that they are going to be your retirement plan. I agree, full stop. I think we have the privilege as millennials and even some Gen Xers, right? We have the privilege of the financial information, like literally being at our fingertips, to where we can prepare so that is not the reality for our kids. I don't necessarily think that our parents was in the same position that we are in currently, right? I think it's completely different. We essentially, as millennials, grew up with floppy disk in the start of internet all the way through the transformation of where the internet is at now with like social media and just how Google and AI and like you have a lot of financial resources at your fingertips. Not necessarily free. That ain't what I'm saying. But what I am saying is that it's accessible. So I think it's comparing apples to oranges a little bit, just a tad. Queer LCSW said, this is so cultural too. I grew up hearing how kids owe their parents to take care of them in old age. It was our obligation, but we were their burden. Made no sense to me, making sure my daughter don't got to worry about me. Exactly. I think that we in a current generation can prepare for the younger generation, so that's not their reality. Okay. So I don't necessarily agree with all them comments, but I get her perspective. I also think it's limited. So yeah, I don't know. Would you let your parents think? I guess I could see maybe where you might. Like I said, if you were emancipated, if there's a strenuous, like abusive relationship type situation, and it's on one of those extremes, but just normal, my mom or dad grew up, did the best they could, may have asked me here and there, didn't make it feel like a burden, but I just think it's part of my responsibility as someone who's a little bit more financially well off. My parents ain't sinking. And that's just the bottom line, because Free Green said so. Let's check out another one and see what other perspectives are.
No, for sure. I'm currently facing it. So this is what I want to say to everyone, that sandwich generation where you are taking care of generation before you, and maybe you have kids, you're taking care of generation. Have you had to have a selfish moment? Doesn't mean just saying no all the time. It's like, I want you to plan in your life rather than your family or whoever you take care of, rather than them asking, right? Rather than them asking you, I need you to figure out what you're capable of giving them.
Listen, now she said a word right there, right? Because we not just giving at the sacrifice of like your own goals and dreams and ambitions, but if you have decided that this is something that you're going to take on, helping your parents financially, that should be a line item in your budget, right? Like whatever that number is. And then you allocate that money to your parents. And they also need to know that this number ain't going up, right? This is what I have, and we need to make do with what you have, right? Because your income is not infinite. You ain't got no money tree out there. And I think that's a great way to find comfort in knowing that you're doing as much as you can, but it's not at the sacrifice of maybe taking care of your kids, taking care of yourself, right? And planning for some of the goals that you want to accomplish in your own life. So I completely agree with this. I don't think it should be a situation where your parents are taking control of you financially, or they're abusing you or misusing you financially, but you also have to plan for it and understand what your max contribution is and what it's not. And if you realize that like you're contributing a little bit too much because you can't take care of some of the personal things in your life that you need to take care of, then it's important to have those conversations and cut back. And that just is what it is without burdening yourself. I completely agree. But let's see what the comments say. 10RN said, buy them life insurance, please. If you know you are their retirement, buy them a policy. I agree 100%. And I have two perspectives on it. My first perspective is, one, when it comes to life insurance, people don't necessarily think about life insurance until it's too late. But if you think about it before and you plan and you prepare for it, life insurance can be one of the easiest ways to transfer wealth from one generation to the next. First. My second perspective on life insurance is the only thing that is inevitable in life is change. None of us are immortal. So it's important to have life insurance on your parents so that, one, you can give them a celebration of life that they deserve, but then two, make sure that their financial affairs are taken care of and you don't have that unexpected financial burden placed on your shoulders after you've been taking care of them for however long time financially. Alexis said, agreed, and it's draining. It can definitely be draining, but there is a way to find balance in that. And I love what the young lady said up above, where figure out how much you can contribute and make sure you're not burdening yourself. Medically Mecca said, woo, you are speaking the truth. Yeah, I agree. I think it's important for us to personally recognize what you can do and what you cannot do. And if your decision is, just can't in any way, shape, or form, then that's your decision. If your decision is, I can, but I can only do so much, then figure out what that so much is. And if your decision is, I can, come hell or high water, even if that means sacrificing my own life, then do that. Whatever your decision is, laser focus in on that and run full steam towards it. I don't think there's one way to help your parents prepare for retirement or one way to decide you're not going to. I think there's definitely nuance in everyone's situation, but I can see where people feel responsible. It's because I personally am experiencing it.